Yep. We're all good.
Okay.
And there we go.
Okay. Are we live?
We're live. We're back. It's happened again. So shit. Yeah, here we are. What were we were just talking about is it E3 that just happened?
Well, mainly about Skyrim. I mean, wait, not Skyrim, the new Skyrim.
Oh yeah, whatever
The
the
new
fuck
Elder
that
Scrolls.
is. Yeah,
because
that's
we
it.
like those games.
Yeah, no, well, and because that's the thing. So, me giving my pitch, it's that I don't even own a video game system. But I remember I went over to your house, or Dad's house back then, whatever it was, your house, and that was when Skyrim first came out. And I was like, what is this? And I just like grabbed the controller, and then I ended up sitting there for like 8 hours.
Yeah, you made some like Nord named like Space or something
I think
like
his
that.
name was Butts.
His name, yeah, maybe it was Buzz.
Sounds
It was
about
something
right.
stupid, but you know what? Everybody has their own experience in
Right.
Skyrim. That's what I like about it.
It's always good. So.
You just do whatever you want in that game.
But yeah, so anyways, that game's fucking awesome. And I get into it for like all of 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
just super hardcore,
Yeah.
and then
Well, that's pretty good for you, though.
well, I think it's cool. And usually it lines up when I'm injured.
Well, I mean, you used to play a lot of video games. Well, not a lot, but like you used to play a lot more video games when we were younger. Like we played Legend of Zelda, Mario,
Zelda was the shit.
Ratchet and Clank. You know.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
eventually you got out of it, whereas I kind of like stuck with it. But for you to like play a video game for 2 weeks is pretty good.
That says a lot to the integrity of that game, right?
Yeah, that and the fact that they've been pretty much selling that game for like the last 7 years. I mean, I think they're still releasing a new edition of it for the Switch. Maybe that came out and they're
Really?
releasing another. Yeah, no, they're
Nintendo?
so they're releasing a version of Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah.
I wasn't
newest-
sure if we were talking about Zelda or not.
No, I'm talking about Skyrim.
Oh, it's on the Nintendo?
Yeah, you
Oh.
can. So you can play Skyrim on the Switch. Yeah, no, you can play it on everything.
I did not know that.
Even that new app that's coming out, the new mobile game. It looks and plays a lot like Skyrim. So it's basically just mobile Skyrim.
Right? Or
Yeah,
non-Sky, it's whatever place they put it in.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
that makes sense.
you know, yeah, I don't know where it takes place. Maybe it takes place everywhere. I think.
See, now this is
I'm
the
not
weird
sure.
part. Is like, I do enjoy. That's weird because I'd rather I don't own any video game systems, but do enjoy going into hardcore like video game mode like once a year for like 2 weeks. Just go hardcore into it. But I don't like games on phones for whatever reason.
They usually just suck.
Maybe
is
that's
my problem with them. Like
Yeah.
it's not like I have an outright problem with them, but it's just maybe it's
well, they're just not very captivating.
I don't
right?
think they're geared for me. I think they're geared more for people who are on the go more.
I
who just,
tried that
like,
too.
Are into casual games.
I was because I was traveling a shitload and I got bored of just like staring out the window on trains and planes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got an idea. I'm gonna download some games. So I downloaded a couple games while I was in like an airport. Turned out they were boring as shit.
It'd be funny if they were games about like looking out of a train window. Like this is
Well,
much better.
Okay, so ironically, I did buy a flight simulator for iPhone for like I don't know $2, and I played
that's pretty
that.
close.
Yeah, while I was flying in a plane. I'm
yeah,
like,
I don't want to be looking out of a
really
plane
fucking
window.
dumb.
I want to pretend I'm flying the thing.
Yeah, it's-
No, but those are fun though. We had flight simulator.
okay,
when
so
we were
they used to be
younger. We
fun,
had
but the ones on iPhone are not fun.
Well, yeah, because you need the switch. All right, if you want to do flight simulator, right, you have to have the switches, or
Mhm.
you have to have the peripherals, the controllers.
Right.
Which Dad, he bought them.
Oh, yeah,
Back
this
in the
is-
day, we had like Flight Simulator 2000. It was so old. I remember it was so old. It had the twin towers in it.
You remember that part of it?
Yeah. Wow. That's how old. That's how
But
dated.
that's
That's
dating.
how dated it was.
Well, okay, 2000
Well,
was only 1 year before.
There's a reason why I remember the two towers being in that game. You know, in Flight Simulator, and it's for a reason I'm not proud of.
Did you
and you're
crash
and
into
you're,
him?
you're complicit in this, Joe.
Did you hit them?
Joe, I remember. I think we did.
Did we? I don't remember this.
I think we flew.
You were younger than me.
Where
How
do
do you remember that?
I was too young at the time. There's no way I conjured up this idea on my own. Like
Did we come up with that?
we probably, dude, we were like 7.
Yeah, but we're
You were like 7.
we're flying like Cessnas and shit. We weren't flying jumbo jets. It's different.
But it's still like flying planes, and it's still pretending you're
It's a little
simulating.
eerie, yeah. Well, but okay, so we're also flying because when you play video game simulators, especially when we're kids,
It's all about doing the unknown.
yeah, well, doing things you're not supposed. Like,
Yeah,
you remember, I'd fly
taboo thing,
super close to the mountains and stuff, and then
Yeah.
you'd hit a mountain, or like, oh, there's a bridge, I'm gonna fly under the bridge, or
Yeah.
oh, there's two towers right by each other. Let's see if we can fit between them, and you wouldn't. You'd hit them because they're too close.
And they were so like blocky. They were just terribly rendered.
Yeah,
too.
they're just random blocks, really. But okay, you remember what was that game that we used to play? You remember Matt Bowden?
Yeah.
Do you remember that game that he was obsessed with?
Time Splitters too, right?
Okay, so there's a lot of games he was. We're taking it back. So I was like what, 13, 10, something like that.
Okay.
But this was a robot.
Oh,
Game.
Armored Core.
Armored Core.
Yeah,
That was
it.
It
wasn't Gundam. It wasn't quite Gundam. It was.
No, Gundam hadn't
because
been
it was really
invented yet.
customizable. You could like make your own killer robot, like giant robot.
Yeah,
the
you
way
could have the
want it.
four-legged robots, and they had weight capacities and stuff like that.
Oh, it was nuts.
It was a cool game.
There was so much. Yeah, there was so much customizing to it.
Yeah,
That's
what
why
kind
I
of
didn't
guns
like
you
it.
wanted to put? Well, I liked that part because I'd build these cool robots. I just sucked at the game,
Yeah.
and so he'd come along and blast the shit out of me and kill me and my robot. Or yeah.
I always felt like I was at a disadvantage because I knew my robot was shit. And I was just like, it's like he's not even a well-made robot.
You could paint it. Remember, you could paint the
Yeah.
robots, like the different components of
It
them.
just mattered that he was green. Like that's
Yeah,
all
that's
I
true.
cared
You
about.
care about just green.
It's like he's green. Don't kill him. Oh no,
He's so pretty.
dying. But at least he's beautiful.
Yeah, shit. That was a cool game.
That was a cool game.
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank was also good. Yeah, they remade that one. They made a movie about the first one.
They made a movie?
Yeah, they made a movie. It's based on the first game. It's not even like they made some new plot. It's like straight up they just adapted the first game.
Wow.
It's like
Man, I wish I had the thing set up so we could play a clip because I
Yeah.
play that banana clip.
oh my yeah. See, no, it's like it's weird
But
though.
that was well written.
Yeah, it was well written, and like Ratchet and Clank these days is still funny, but it's more Pixar. It's more Disney now. But
Right.
like back in the day, I wouldn't say like Ratchet and Clank's humor was like Disney-esque. It was very, it was like very immature Nickelodeon-esque. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was just something kind of like adolescent about it.
It was good.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to blow the shit out of stuff. That was fun. Just big giant guns.
They made a lot of poop jokes. That's what
That's
I'm
why I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like? Going Commando was the name of the second game.
Yeah.
Up Your Arsenal.
Up your arsenal. Yeah. What was the first one? Just Ratchet and Clank.
Just Ratchet and Clank, yeah.
I don't remember the last after that. Well, I don't.
And then, Deadlock, that wasn't very,
Oh, that's not.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ratchet and
Well,
Clank was
okay,
good.
so there was
But-
that. And this is like the turning point too. So we got a PlayStation 2 for Christmas. Fuck, what was that?
I think that was the Christmas of
2000?
2000?
2000? And it came with Jack and Daxter.
No, it was 2001 because we were expecting the GameCube.
Okay, yeah, I remember we're like,
Yeah.
we're going to go to GameCube, and then we got
Yeah.
PlayStation. And
We were so cocky. We were like, we're so
well,
good to get GameCube.
because
yeah.
you remember how Mom and Dad didn't make it very, like, they were really bad at secrets in that sense. They're like, well, okay, the new video game systems are coming out, you're going to get one. The big surprise was the N64.
Yeah.
Because I did not think we were going to end up getting any
What
video
year
games at all.
was that? Do you remember what year the 64 was?
Fuck, I don't remember when it
So I don't
came
know.
out.
I think it came out in '96, but I don't think we got it in '96 because I remember it coming out. I remember unwrapping that, and I don't think that like at '96 I would have been 3 years old. I don't know if I was like forming long-term memories at that point.
No, we were older than that.
I feel like I was 4. I feel like it was '97 or '98 that we got the Nintendo 64, but I still play that console. That console is
Yeah.
amazing. Like Mario Kart 64 still holds up to
yeah,
this
the
day.
Mario Kart's dope.
In fact, when I try to play it on an older TV too, like
The
like
old
a
CRTs.
90s, yes, a CRT. 'cause
Where do
it's
you even
part of
find
the
a CRT
experience.
now?
Smash Bros. Players, they love them because it doesn't screw up the latency. They like it because it's like they need that
Because
like
it's got
authentic
quicker,
experience. Yeah.
It's called lag time. What? Hang on.
So yeah,
Is that
apparently,
true?
So apparently, this is a thing in the Smash Bros. Community for
Yeah.
the GameCube one. This is only for the GameCube one.
Right.
And that is that it causes a little bit of lag when you go from GameCube to if you do, I think it's the
yeah, because-
yellow, white, red connection
Yes,
on
a composite to
yeah.
HDMI.
Does that have anything to do with like the like how the frames like they're interlaced or anything like that? Is that
No, what that has to do, that's just simple analog to digital conversion.
Okay.
Is all. It's the same way. So, Oh God, how do I go into this without getting too nerd technically?
Yeah, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Hang on. Because it's the same thing when we do video. It's quite literally the same conversions that we do it. Like, you know how we have the DA boxes, we have...
But that doesn't cause lag.
No, those don't. But that's because the DA won't cause lag.
Okay.
However, when we go wireless, it does.
Okay.
Right? So each time you go wireless, that creates lag. When you go, for example, HDMI to SDI, that creates a small bit of lag because they're two different protocols of digital video. It doesn't create as much lag as taking analog and converting that to digital, because what has to happen is analog, let's do it audio, okay? So audio is a great way to start this example. Like a record player, right? A record player is about as analog as it gets. You got the needle. It's got the little peaks and valleys on the disc.
Yeah.
The needle goes up and down, and quite literally as it goes up and down, it creates a wave of sound that's amplified out, right? And that is the wave of sound is on the peaks and valleys of the disc. So that's analog audio. What they do is, if you have like a turntable, you're going to plug it into a speaker system. It's taking that analog audio, it's taking the little actual ridges on that, and it's converting it to a digital signal, or not, I'm sorry. It's an analog electrical signal.
Yeah.
Right, so where it's voltage that's just going up and down with the peak and valley, right, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
All that does is it moves a speaker that same voltage. Like high voltage is a lot of movement, low voltage is not that movement, you know. So that's analog. To go digital, they've got to take and convert that to I's and O's.
Yeah.
And what happens, there's called sample rates. Essentially, you can have a rate of like 1 to 10. So now instead of going a nice smooth little curve up and down, it's like, okay, we're going to go block, block, block up to 10. And block, block, block down to here. And so essentially it would be like taking your entire record and blocking all those. So it'd be like pyramid, like steppy pyramids.
Mm-hmm. But that's not quite, that's not the same as
as a nice smooth continuous.
Yeah.
Now you can do smoother because you just make those blocks smaller and smaller and smaller.
with a better sampling rate?
That's higher sample rates.
Okay.
That's why like 48 kilohertz audio sounds like shit, or 120 kilobits versus 128 megabit audio, or 48 megabit, or whatever it is.
More information.
Yeah, more information, more blocks. But the point is that to convert those digitally, the computer has to think, and it creates lag because it takes a little bit of time to go, okay, that's going to be equal to a rate of 256 versus this is now 120, whatever it is. Now imagine that on a scale of a lot more, because video, you've got so many lines, each one of those lines you're doing that with, and then the color you're doing that with, so you have red, blue, and green, you have to do a lot of conversion, and it just takes time to do all that.
Yeah.
So
I guess it is a considerable lag because as you know, in Super Smash Brothers, like when you, especially at the tournament level, like every split little nanosecond matters because they're using this technique called wave dashing, where they're basically exploiting a glitch in the game where, you know, that one move where you can like step to the side.
Yeah.
They do that in a way that allows them to travel with little brief moments of invulnerability. They're not allowed to be. You can't hit them.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning that.
But it's really weird because it's balanced. It's like a balance glitch because they've built strategies upon it and upon it and upon it.
So if it's a glitch that both people can use.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's just, that's the new way that you travel in that game.
It's
That's
technique,
that's how you move. So everything happens very quickly in that game, and so such a latency would make a lot of combos very difficult because you're like reacting almost on like the nanosecond level.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah, they a lot of times now they just try to they play Melee on a hacked version called Project M, where it's a hacked version of Smash Bros. Brawl turned into Melee. So it's the game Brawl with Melee's physics, and so they use that not only because it's like more characters but it's still Melee's engine, but also because then it's on the Wii. It eliminates the digital, or it eliminates the analog to digital problem. It's just digital to digital.
Right. I just noticed that. Speaking of all our digital to analog conversions, I never got the little flashy the autofocus to stop triggering on yours. So
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
So,
do that.
oh, do I have the?
Yeah,
thing?
it's doing the little sparkle thing. So if we
We look like a bunch of fucking amateurs right now.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, for the record, I don't think Joe and I, neither of us would really describe ourselves as serious or hardcore gamers. Like, I play more video games than Joe does.
Dude, not anymore. It's hard to consider yourself hardcore anything, 'cause somebody is doing it way more than
I used
right?
to be, though. Back when I worked at GameStop,
But that
that's
makes
when
sense.
I call myself a gamer. I did the collectibles. I was like keeping up with pre-ordering stuff.
Right.
But it's like a tidal wave that just like it knocked me over, and I just got out of the beach at that point. In the sense
bail,
that like,
yeah.
well, it's so hard to keep up. So I don't try to keep up with like the AAA titles. Like I'm excited for like this new Elder Scrolls game, and I'm excited for some other stuff. But for the most part, I've kind of got some just like a pocket full of games that I like. I'll play some old games. Maybe I'll play like I'm playing God of War right now. Which, by the way,
The new one, or?
the newest God of War.
Yeah.
You are a big fan of this thing that is pretty cool, where you watch cutscenes of video games because they're movie-like. You watch edits on YouTube of video games that like it's edits of the entire game's cutscenes into like a cinematic form. You should check out the newest God of War.
I'll have to do it because the one that got me into it was Uncharted.
Yeah,
Right, like I don't have the PlayStation, and then B, I don't really have the time to go sit down and play a whole game through.
Shoot 'em up, do all the levels and stuff.
It's like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, no,
it's a movie.
That's so cool that you can even just get into the characters without having to play the levels. You know, you don't even have to play as Nathan Drake. You can just watch him do his thing.
Yeah, and it's awesome. Like the writing and screenplay work in that game was fantastic.
Yeah,
which is one thing I'm stoked on. Yeah.
That's something that games have been doing in like the last several years more.
Right.
The last 10 years. In the last 10 years, they've been doing that a lot more.
Wait. Did it go away?
Oh,
yep.
We
got your camera back now.
But yeah, no, check out the newest God of War, because it's not like the other God of War games. This one's way more story driven. It's way more cinematic.
I've been seeing a lot of the memes and stuff where he
God.
just says "boy" all the time.
Boy. You're
Boy.
Oh my, you would love. No, seriously,
Funny,
you're gonna love it. No, it's like they took the God of War series and you remember Last of Us? Did you ever play that game, or did you ever watch that?
I watched a little bit of it.
It's
I just
heavy.
remember. So it's the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's what's funny too. You're bringing it up. It's actually it's weird, like how everything kind of loops around. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and he had a guy on. I can't remember who it was, but they got talking about like astrophysics and this and that, and then they got talking about games and blah blah blah. And he was explaining how one of the games he really enjoyed, this guy who came on, was Last of Us. And like Rogan's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Well, no, you got to watch the trailer for it." But and he explains the plot of it. And the point is, the game has a plot. Like games now have these hardcore, deep, intense plots. That are on par with really great movies.
Well, they're character driven. That's
right.
Story. So video games are more character driven now.
Which they should be, right? Because
yeah.
What was the original example? Remember, you may have been part of the conversations, but if not, I'm sure you've had them yourself. Where like me and Rob would drink a lot and watch Quentin Tarantino movies, and Pulp Fiction, for example, is entirely what's the question was, and he posed this to me, and that's when I was like, aha! I had this moment. I was like, holy shit!
No.
What's the plot of Pulp Fiction?
Oh, there is no plot. Well,
exactly.
There's like a gold watch, and it's like, well, it's like at first, yeah, it's like it's weird because like at first the movie is about like maybe violence because they show like the couple and they're like all honey bunny, and then they hold it up, and then all of a sudden you're looking at like two hitmen, and so you're just kind of like, oh, maybe this is like a world piece. Maybe we're looking at like L.A. But then the thing is they're getting like deep in these like characters, like stories. So it's not just about like the crime world of LA because they're getting deeper. Right. They're getting to something a little bit more closer. No, yeah, it's all over the place. So what
really the point being is that it's one of the first movies. There's probably more, but the way it was described to me, and I'm like, oh shit, you're right. There is no plot. It's a playground for these characters that they develop the characters, and then let the characters do what they will do. Right? It's basically the best way you could write a story. Is to let these characters drive it themselves.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie.
Because there's no point in the movie where, like, you're like, oh, well, that only happened because the story needed it to happen.
Right, yeah, there's a plot filler. No,
it's purely like, we're going to create some personalities. We're going to, like, simulate
what the fuck happens
what
when we
would
put them
happen
together.
if we put them together, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's neat little tie-ins, and there's cool little continuity, and, like, the timelines are creative. Yeah, no, It's stuff like video games are going for stuff like that where it is kind of off the ball, and we're just going to totally do something that's totally just involved in that character, which is difficult in a video game because you are the character, right? Like,
Yeah. So
how do you
develop a character and then you are the character?
Yeah,
right?
how do you keep it consistent? How do you keep it believable? You have this like pre-written personality, but then all of a sudden the video game, in game they'll be acting differently because there's a player controlling their actions.
Right. Yeah. So because they're obviously not going to do, and that's like the Grand Theft Auto one. It's like, how do you write the character when the person's going to do whatever the fuck they want?
Kill all the hookers.
Run them over, dude. That was the best thing ever. No, you remember in, what was that? The original Grand Theft Auto 3. And that was like we were kids too in like middle school or grade school or something.
We should not have had that game.
Well, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But like you go pick up a hooker, you remember, and then the car would wiggle for a little bit. And you're like, they're having sex.
They put the wiener in the butt.
Yeah, and then the hooker would get out of the car. You run her over and get your money back.
That's true.
It sounds really
so
horrible.
efficient.
What's funny is that, oh man, see, and this is the funny thing, like this day and age, we just recorded this conversation. Someday somebody's going to soundbite me for that, and it's going to sound like I'm the worst person in the world.
Context is everything.
Context. Listen to the whole joke.
Yeah.
Here's a whole joke. But yeah, it's...
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto is...
Because I'm giggling about run over hookers. You know,
what's
like,
funny is
all bad.
I feel like in the newest Grand Theft Auto that came out, you played that one, right? It has the 3 protagonists. It has Franklin.
Yeah, what's it
Michael,
called?
And then it has Trevor.
Yeah, that one's...
Trevor's the crazy guy. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Is it? It's just Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
I played it briefly.
What?
That was
What
so.
I
The
love
last
is
time I played that was when I was laid up.
When you were recovering. You played a lot of Skyrim then too.
Yeah, basically that was my. I mean, this is like 4 years ago, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, because I remember I was.
Ooh, yeah, when you had both your arms broken, right?
No, that was 5 or 6 years ago. Either way, point is,
Get injured a lot.
yeah, I get my stamp card every time I go to the emergency room.
Yeah.
They'll punch a little
The fast
tag in it, right? And once I get up to 12, I think I get a
You get a free like mocha.
free fucking sandwich.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that like in Grand Theft Auto 5, Trevor like matches. They finally built a personality that matches how people actually play Grand Theft Auto. Like they just made Trevor someone who randomly like kills prostitutes. And then you're like, well, where does such an atrocious person come from? And then you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, wait a
when
minute.
I play this game.
That's what that's what's so brilliant, and that's what they can do now. So now we're at the point where video games have been out for a while, and now video games can be self-aware. They can make fun of tropes that have been established. So like that's what I think Trevor was. I think Trevor was literally made for players to look at themselves in the mirror. Rockstar was like, this is what you guys are. This is what your psychotic nature actually looks like in a psyche. Like this
right, but what the funny thing is that
ooh, you should do me.
yeah, you want to get a little Jack and Coke thing going?
Slot me up.
Yeah. You know, a little ice cube. A little ice cube.
Yeah, let's chill it up.
Oh, where'd the tongs go? We're supposed to have fancy tongs. Did you forget the tongs?
Budget cuts.
You're fired, dude.
Yes.
I can't fire you. We'd have no show.
Yeah, we're already on Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, we're on Skeleton Crew today. I fire you. I'm by myself, just talking about fucking who knows what.
Yeah, it becomes a
running
vlog.
over hookers.
Yeah, because it's not a podcast anymore. It's a vlog.
Actually, what's fun is have you heard of Bert Kreischer?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, so obviously I've seen the guy before. He's a comedian, but I started looking more into him because I was like, man, this guy's really funny. He doesn't have the normal stand-up bits. Most of his gigs that he does are, they're stories about his life. So he's got the one, and if anybody hasn't seen it yet, I highly suggest typing in The Machine,
Okay.
and then Bert, B-E-R-T. Kreischer's harder to spell. I don't know how to spell it, but it comes up. But it's a fantastic story. He is a fucking hilarious comedian.
What's it called again?
The story is called The Machine.
The Machine.
We're gonna watch it after the show. I gotta make you watch it if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
But basically, so he does his.
Oh, we need to do a clink.
Oh yeah, we haven't done one of those. All right, there we go. So he does a podcast as well, and I started checking that out. Just sort of expand the horizons type of thing. He's got a few different methods, but one of them he does. It's really interesting to me. It's called Open Tabs.
Okay.
And so what he does is he's got a laptop, and all through the week he's like researching random things. But what he does, instead of like, oh, I look something up, like everything, instead of closing the tab when he's done, he leaves it open. So if he sits down Monday and looks up 12 things, he's got 12 tabs open.
Yeah.
Tuesday, he looks up another 10, now he's got 22, right? So he'll leave all his tabs open. Let's say it's Fridays he does it. Fridays he does a show where he'll sit down, and it's just him, and he's got the guy who's like cutting for him. But mainly it's the camera's just on him, and he sits there and he talks about the tabs.
Yeah, his little research journey.
Yeah, he kind of like goes back and he's like, oh, this is what I was thinking when I was looking up foot cream.
Oh my god!
You know, like,
I should do that. I used to just like rack up a bunch of tabs on my phone.
Did you ever stumble?
And then I kind of gave up Stumble when I discovered Reddit because I found
that's
that
where most of the things come from. On
exactly.
Stumble.
Yeah, it got frustrating because I would like find something on Reddit and then find it on Stumble, and then I realized, oh,
Stumble kind of slowed down because I used to stumble a lot, and it was like the premiere of everything on the internet.
Well, now Reddit's probably like the Stumble, like because
But
I know
it's
that
more
Reddit's
active.
not even. Yeah, but
Like you have to actively go into Reddit versus Stumble.
Yeah,
I could just sit there and fucking click a button,
They bling it to you,
and it would bring it to me, and I'm like, I like this, and I'd read a cool article about something sciencey, and then I'd click into another thing, and there'd be a funny video. It was just awesome how random and lazy it was, but.
Yeah, no, going through your history though to like look at your Google searches and like your Wikipedia, for me just to see like my little Wikipedia explorations, it's good because a lot of times I'll just randomly dive into a topic that I was curious about, read about it, and then move on. And
Well, you go in those tunnels where who knows what you end up researching.
yeah,
There was one I recall. For some reason it was really weird how it just hit me. But I remember I was doing I was working full time, and I took 17 units over at American River, and it was like quite literally the craziest, most focused 3 to 4 months of my life. Like I had no time to fuck around.
A lot of people do Adderall when that happens.
Yeah, I actually did it without drinking a whole lot because you can't drink. Like I had no time on the weekends to go party or do any of that. So I'm literally just work, homework, school, blah, blah, blah. You know, like you can imagine like the time being filled. And I remember there was one point I'd been going for like a month straight, and my way of unwinding in my mind was not even to simply just like drink or anything like that. I just wanted to think about something that wasn't forced upon me.
Yeah.
Because like when I'm at work, I'm fixing problems that are, okay, work related.
Yeah.
When I'm at school, it's like I have to keep my mind focused on school subject. And so I remember I just like happened to grab my laptop, and I don't know why the thought came in my mind, but it was like blue fucking the giant whales. And I was like, I just want to research these.
Yeah, you just want to explore something.
Yeah.
You just want to get the hell out of
I
the
wanted
worlds.
And I had no reason to explore it, but I just like Wikipedia'd it and then followed in and like went down one of those tunnels researching like Wikipedia of blue whales or whatever. And they're actually really cool creatures. They're fucking massive.
Yeah.
Right? They got like plates of almost steel like whatever that they grow. It's fucking cool. But the point is, for me, it was like this relief to be able to spend 2 hours.
Yeah. Your mind was just open to the information, too.
Yeah, my mind's just like, cool. I want to think about something that's not required.
You couldn't give a shit about the blue whales before.
No, but for some reason, I was really just like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm super into it. I don't know.
That's like the craziest. I think the number one coolest thing about the internet era is just that the ability. There's no more. There's like this comic that I saw, and I absolutely love it, where like it's like life before Google, and it's like two guys sitting on a couch, and one of them was like, "Hey man, do you know where zebras came from?" The other one's like,
nah.
"No, I don't," and the other one's like, "That's too damn bad."
Yeah, and then
It's just that's the end of the comic.
Yeah,
And it's like that's a damn shame. It's just,
now that would
the
get
end
you
of
on
the
a Google
inquiry.
spin where you just who knows where the fuck we're going.
They could go to the library. But nobody would do that. Nobody would just go to the library to find something out unless they had like a project or like a schoolwork. But now we're just so used. I'm so used to it. If I want to know literally anything, I believe that I can pretty much discover anything. If you give me like a day, I can probably find the answer. I can probably find an answer that will be at least probably satisfactory for like almost any like standard question. I don't know. It's like it's ridiculous. Like if you know how to research, you can find answers.
Dude,
That's so cool. We have so much information.
It's right there. Well, and this is the exciting thing, quite literally, is that granted, I can't use it in my current job. I have to a certain degree, but there are, what's it called? For the most part, any job that you're in, especially tech world jobs, IP based, like, until you get into super high-end commercial, like, proprietary gear, you can just research your way through your job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was some of the stuff that I was doing in particular jobs I've had where it's like, I need to know a Linux command to get this done, right? And it's like, oh, who cares if I don't have a job manual or there's no required thing? It's like, I know what I need to make happen. I just Google it. And suddenly I'd have the answer. And I look like I'm awesome because I fixed something in 30 minutes instead of calling a supervisor who didn't, blah, 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 or whatever it is, It's really cool that we have this ability. That's so one thing I found out, like when I was traveling overseas, there's no Google in China. There are search engines, but they're all in Chinese, and I don't know how to read it. So,
well, and also it's like it's not free information,
Right? Yeah, it's heavily guarded. So, but I basically became a lot less of an important person because I had to rely on the knowledge that was retained in my brain. Mm-hmm. Versus like in the States, something goes wrong, I just start searching codes because pretty much everything you have, whether it's a small piece of hardware or big, it's going to throw you an error code. You take that error code, you Google it.
Yeah.
Somebody else in the world's had it, and they'll give you a solution.
Even if it doesn't give you an error code, you can just oftentimes I'll Google straight up just the message with very little context to that message, and just see what happens. Because literally how it works is it's just looking for word matches on other people talking about that. So you don't want to be like, oh, what is this message? No, you just straight up put the message, whatever
that
it was.
error code in, or that message that pops up. Dude.
It's so cool. Yeah, no,
and the thing is that we've got all this right now at our fingertips, and you can't bullshit people. Like, you've got data. You can double check things all the time. It's fucking awesome. It seems weird that we don't use it more often, and I'm guilty of it too. But
yeah, well, I mean, and the downside is that there's so much information that it can almost be like a needle in the haystack.
What was that? Was it Huxley versus Huxley? Aldous Huxley, I think, because there's the two different types of dystopian futures. There was the
it's Huxley
Orwellian,
versus Orwell,
Orwellian, that's it. So Orwellian, where everything's locked down, versus Huxley, there's just like so much information that you don't know what's true.
Oh man, I'm not.
Guess which one we landed in.
Yeah,
because we're there.
It's true though. I mean, like we really are. It's like it's oversaturation. It's like an oversaturation of information.
Well, to this, and here's the weird, what is it? Ironic kick. Literally, what we're doing right now, we're adding to it.
Yeah,
we are not in any way at all professional.
I wonder how many people are filming podcasts right now at this very moment.
Dude, probably a lot.
It's like it's just to even compete for this like live hour that we've got. Like we're competing with other people doing podcasts, and then we're competing with like TV still. Like it's
so there's a few fun things about that. Like I've had quite a few people since we've started this kind of hit me up or mention it, and they're like, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. So it's more common than I thought.
It's a new thing. It's a new trend.
Well, and here's why.
It's the new vlogging.
It's because, and I might have mentioned this before, but it's such a beautiful thing that it used to be if you wanted to have an hour of program, like me and you wanted to have a video production like this. Imagine in the 50s to get 2 to 3 people to sit down with 3 cameras, cut live, broadcast live. You'd have to have a few $1 million, a whole crew. You'd have to go through school and training and this and that.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, by the time all that's done, are you really getting the true opinion of those 3 people, or is it all these other people who produced it coming in and saying, like, I want you to talk about this, 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 which is how it was for a lot of years, right?
We'd end up getting called communist or something.
Right. Well, and then the thing is, too, there's
you
scripting.
get blacklisted.
Right. You get blacklisted, but the more important, there's scripting going on, right? This is probably, and this is what I like about podcasting. Granted, this is something I listened to a damn near similar opinion. I was like, fuck, he's right. But that being is that this is one of the most honest and true forms of media. Given that you just have us sitting here, for the most part, we forget the cameras are here. Especially because we're drinking. Right? So that helps. We're just sitting here having a bullshit conversation between the two of us. I don't change my persona by any means. You don't change your persona. anybody who's on here, they can try, but after about 5 minutes, that's gone. You know, it's like you get real.
Yeah.
And it's kind of something that's cool. Is you don't have that sort of open.
Yeah, man, it's
real
a voice. Like we are our own voice. Like we're providing. You built the studio for yourself. You're not like you don't have to meet any kind of like content agenda because you have to meet your own because you are your own producer. But yeah, I mean, like back in the day, like we're talking like beginning of like the printing press, 16th
Get some
century.
papers right here.
So that was a big deal. That was actually like a big expansion of voices and communication. But even that was like kind of messed up in the sense that you had to find someone with a press.
Yeah.
And so then that person with the press had to be cool with what you're saying.
Right.
So already you've got that filter. Already you've got that like, oh, you know, the voices and the power of the people with the presses.
Yeah.
But we are our own press.
We're on, so for the first time in history.
Yeah. Well, it's.
Well, I can't say this is the first time, but for the first time this generation,
Yeah.
you know, this
when it comes to video production, I mean, like now we're at the point where
YouTube, I think, was huge because YouTube
yeah.
was the first time you could create something and broadcast your own.
The publication aspect,
Yeah.
because people have been having camcorders for decades,
Right.
But the big one was the publishing aspect,
Right. Being able to publish it to the world.
and a platform. YouTube is such a good platform, and it was a good platform. I've been hearing, oh my God, there was something new that happened today that I heard about. That was some new bullshit with like YouTube. They, it was somebody was like talking on Reddit about how they couldn't watch their brother's graduation. It was like one of those UC schools. It's a UC college.
Okay.
The live stream of their graduation. It's through the official college's YouTube.
Okay.
It got blocked. UMG block. I think United or Universal Musician Group. It's like, it's the vague group that pushes all of the copyright claims on YouTube. Anytime any kind of copyrighted song is played and their algorithm catches it.
Gotcha.
So, and it was triggered because the organist at this graduation started playing the Star Wars theme, and the algorithm picked it up.
Gotcha.
It's like better than Spotify.
No, that algorithm.
Some people joke that they're like, if Spotify doesn't pick up a song that they're listening to because it's too low quality, they'll make. You could record audio of it and put it on YouTube.
Oh, and then
it'll be blocked, and they'll say like it's been blocked by this record company because it.
You have to go through a lot of research though, because I've had a lot of things blocked for that similar reason. Actually, it's funny. Recently, I created a video, and I went through the process of using royalty-free music. But somebody else who actually has a record deal also used that royalty-free music as the bass line for his track.
Yeah.
And so
oh no,
the algorithm picked it up.
It.
Yeah, he sampled it, so it picked it up as his music, even though
so ironic.
he sampled a royalty-free. And so I got nailed for his music, even though it was the original sample that I had used.
So messed up because you're using the song that he. Well, I mean,
used for free. We both used it for free.
I'm on the pro sampling side of it, but this guy is straight up making money on somebody else's intellectual property.
Right.
That's the fucked up part. Is he's copyright guarding something that isn't copyright guarded, and sampling is kind of messed up because all right, I've got a history degree. All right, so I come from the academic world. And in the music world, what they call sampling, that whole thing where you like take a whole bit of a song and then like loop it, build upon it or whatever.
Yeah.
In the academic world, we call that plagiarism. Straight up, especially because I'm a big fan of a lot of music artists that do use sampling, and a vast majority of them do not. Unless I'm not just seeing their like album booklets, they don't cite the credit. They don't. They don't credit the artist that they're sampling.
And I totally get where you're coming from, but it gets blurry when you talk to people. The two that come to mind are DJ Shadow, right? And
I think he cites his.
Does he really
in his booklets? I would be willing to bet
if you buy a CD,
because all of his songs.
Because he is actually really good about a lot of that.
He can't just like in the track titles. He can't just say what song he's sampling in the track.
No, because all he's got 30 different songs sampled per track.
It can be. It can get out to that point.
Well, and then
so in his booklet, I'm pretty sure if you look in his booklet, it'll probably say like what songs it's sampling.
Gotcha. So then the other one, and I'm not sure they might do the same thing, but if you've listened to the Avalanches.
Yeah, that's another one too.
Because they are so heavily. All it is samples.
It's disc jockeying, man.
And it's not a bad thing because to the degree that they do it, I would consider it a new form of art.
Mm-hmm.
They do. They don't take anything more than really noises and sound bites from the original pieces. So therefore, it's almost like that is Creative Commons, in my opinion.
These days,
that is true
sampling,
Creative Commons.
Yeah. All right, so I'm pretty sure they, especially in the 90s, they probably had to, like, fight a lot of frontier stuff to, like, do sampling.
Right.
Because, I mean, they really are. It's plagiarizing, so they probably did include the information in their booklets. But these days, it seems like some artists are just kind of like...
so many SoundCloud artists.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
And they, well... it's not that I don't give a shit. It's just that at this point now, sampling is so accepted. And let me be clear. I absolutely love sampling. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm an amateur DJ myself. I've made instrumental tracks that are mostly sampled because I lack music production skills. But they sound good.
Not nearly as much as me. I can't even do that.
Sampling is an art. But whenever I post anything that I've created from heavily sampled stuff, I always absolutely include I pretend like I'm just doing like a shitty remix. I never, like, a lot of people will do remixes, but like give them a new song name, not acknowledge the old artist in that. Yeah. And that to me is kind of messed up because, I mean, if you're remixing a song, even like if your sampled song is basically just a remix, you should acknowledge it.
If that's what you're doing. Yeah.
But it's a blurry line. It's a blurry line.
Dude, there's a lot of that shit nowadays. Well, hey man, let's fucking close it up. I want to show you that. I will make sure to post that machine story in the comments.
Yeah, please do.
Because I'm such an advocate of this guy, like, on the quick ending note here, God, the way that this dude does it's almost like a life thing that I like. Right, like he just simply lives a great life. Well, his life. It's not it's his life, and he tells stories about it. And this is Rob once, even back in the day, like I used to tell the stories about, like, how I went to Arizona, or I fucking tried to do a bike jump and knocked my tooth out. And it's like I've got these different stories. Right, tooth's back in. We're all good.
That's good. That's good. You're not in Arizona anymore.
I'm not in Arizona anymore, and I'm not in China anymore. Like, there's all sorts of crazy experiences that you have, and I always like to sum them up into funny stories, usually when we're drinking, and just like, this is the time I did this. And quite literally, I see this guy, I'm like, fuck, that is cool. His stories are a whole lot better than mine.
But he's also a big story guy. He likes doing it for the story.
Right, yeah, well, he lives his life that way. And I won't go into it right now about, like, because I've watched a little bit about, like, how he kind of became who he is. I'm like, fuck, that's cool. But the point being is that, for the most part, it's literally somebody who lives their life, enjoys it, sees the humor in it, does stupid things, and enjoys the aspect of being able to explain, well, that was dumb, and move on. So, I don't know. With that,
The machine.
Yeah, the machine. We got some stupid things to do. Let's go.
Good show.
Watch some YouTubes. Press that button. Yes.
Oh, boy.